Hey there, Swifties.
Welcome back to another episode of Secret Session Podcast.
These are your hosts, Noel
and Alice.
What we offer today is a brief introduction to our first series of monothematic episodes.
We're going to talk about the Cruel Summer Trilogy. So, why do we call it the Cruel Summer Trilogy? We have a reason and it can be obvious, but we're going to explain it to you. So, the trilogy part, as I said, is obvious because Taylor has said in the Folklore The Long Pond Studio Sessions documentary that she wrote 3 songs for Folklore about what she called the teenage love triangle. And these songs are Cardigan, August, and Betty.
And the Cruel Summer part, well, we found some resemblance between this teenage love triangle and the song Cruel Summer from her 7th studio album Lover. This is what Taylor said about Cruel Summer in an interview. This song is one that I wrote about the feeling of summer romance and how oftentimes a summer romance can be layered with all these feelings of pining away, sometimes even secrecy. It deals with the idea of being in a relationship where there's some element of desperation and pain in it, where you're yearning for something that you don't quite have yet, and it's just right there and you just can't reach it.
So we have some elements that make us think about the songs like August. We have this yearning for something that you don't quite have yet, and it reminds us of the lyrics, wanting was enough, for me it was enough, and the secrecy and the summer romance, so you get it.
Yes, it's clear how this inspired her to write about this summer romance in the semi-fictional world of folklore.
So we have different characters that compose this love triangle, and these are James, Betty, and Augustine. And the main plot is the summer romance between Augustine and James, and how this summer romance affects Betty, who had a relationship with James. This is debatable, but
yes.
we will talk about it later. Their summer affair wasn't well kept secret because Betty's friend Inez tells her about it.
Fun fact, James, Betty, and Inez are Blake Lively's and Ryan Reynolds' daughters' names, if you didn't know that. So, most of this story, I guess, is basically a string of headcanons put together by me and Alice. So, we will talk about it further in the next few episodes, which will be all about these 3 major songs of the trilogy. But yeah, we will talk about it more later in the episodes.
So we think that in the writing of these songs, Taylor had her own life in mind, and so she was directly inspired by her life. And if you think about the rumors and about her relationships during the summer of 2016 and how they had an impact in her own personal life, you can see how she might see herself in the character Betty that she wrote. And because we know that Betty is a girl whose love life was completely changed by rumors that turned out to be true.
You know, the rumors are terrible and cruel, but most of them are true.
Yeah, so she said it herself.
Yes, as a wise one once said.
Yes. So, once again, we have these happenings and these events of the summer of 2016 that are part of her life, and so that summer was the cruel summer. And while we're talking about summer, we have an entry from her journal that was published in the Lover Deluxe edition. And on August 29th, 2016, Taylor said,
"This summer is the apocalypse." She was Betty when she was singing about a girl at home. She was James when she did something bad. And she was Augustine when she was waiting for a boy at the window all summer long.
So, is this just a trilogy? We don't think so, because we think that we can interpret most of the songs from folklore from the point of view of these 3 major characters. For instance, we think that Exile is another song about Betty and James, and it tells about the breakup that was caused by basically miscommunication. And then we have the one which we think is from Augustine's point of view, recalling in a very distant future that passionate summer love and what it meant for her. But we also have songs like Hoax, This Is Me Trying, Mirror Ball, and so on.
Yeah, you get the point. So, we will talk about the other songs after finishing the songs of the official trilogy, so stick around for those episodes.
We also think that the tracklist of Folklore should be rewritten to tell the story in a chronological order. So we think that the order should be August, Betty, and Cardigan, and not Cardigan, August, and Betty.
By the way, we made a playlist with what we think is the correct tracklist order, but only with the songs that we feel like are part of the teenage love triangle story. We'll leave it in the description of this episode if you'd like to check it out.
And with this order in mind, the story should go like this.
In the first half of Betty, James sees Betty dancing with another boy. He thinks that she's cheating on him or that she wants to leave him because she's met someone new. So he gets out of the gym, walks back home thinking about Betty and what he's just seen, and suddenly, out of nowhere, Augustine is there telling him to get in the car. And so he does.
So their summer love could have begun that very night, but also later, we really don't know. Still, James and Augustine start spending time together, and we assume that James and Betty are no longer a thing and they broke up. Or maybe, which is what the majority of fans assume, James is actively cheating on Betty.
So now we have August and the summer romance. During this time, Augustine falls deeply in love with James, and James keeps thinking about Betty all summer long. We like to think that Exile is about Betty and James, so basically they would see each other occasionally around town, and in the song Exile they bump into each other at the movies, where Betty is with someone else and James, is jealous. And here we come to understand that the major issue in their relationship was miscommunication, basically. The whole bridge with I never learned to read your mind. That's basically miscommunication.
And then after Exile, we would get the second half of Betty. We don't know how far in the future. So that's the part where James crashes Betty's party and they have a little chat in their garden. And as Taylor said, they likely got back together, but we're not sure when. And we like to think that they didn't get back together in Betty, but in Cardigan, which is in a very distant future and which sees Betty's point of view about 20 to 30 years later, according to what Taylor said.
So, in the next episode, we'll talk about the real mother of this trilogy, the one and only Cruel Summer. And after that, we promise that we'll begin analyzing extensively the 3 songs of the trilogy, starting off with August. And then we continue on with Betty, and last but not least, Cardigan.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you liked it. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and to follow us on Instagram at Secret Session Podcast and on Twitter at Secret Session TS.
See you next episode.
Bye!